might be originally a men's game, but the girls can play it.
The fact that that's on TV and can be accessed, and you can see it, and it's a stadium, and there's a crowd, and it's good, means that there's loads of girls can go, I can be that.
It's about having the opportunity to wear the badge and that being a possibility. What we did and what this Women's Super League generation has done has made that possible so that young girls can dream and aspire to want to wear the badge of the team that they support.
The 8th year of the Women's Super League is heading into its summer break. With just one game left, the table tells two very different stories for the matchup between St. Helens and the Warrington Wolves. For St. Helens, they're pushing for the league title. They are no strangers to success in the Super League and have been a part of it since the beginning.
In 2018, it was the first full season of the Women's Super League, so that was when basically all of the professional men's clubs branded a women's side. So there was women's teams going on, and I played in St. Helens for a community club called Thatto Heath. We were really successful there, and St. Helens basically took on board the majority of that team to form the St. Helens women's team. Since then, year on year, more girls playing, more teams, and the standard has just absolutely skyrocketed, and that's when we started to get games on BBC, on Sky. You know, we now get the Challenge Cup final at Wembley, and that was something I never envisaged would happen.
St. Helens' success doesn't just come from great play on the pitch. It's also from the team finding value and support off of it.
All they've ever known is boys teams like the men's first team, the academy, the scholarship, reserves. That's been, you know, around this club for many, many years, and that's what they all know, that's what they all understand. So quite quickly there was a women's team plonked in, and then it was, now we've got an academy and now we've got a scholarship, and it's, you know, finding that balance on where do we fit, and actually is everything exactly the same, or do we need things a little bit different? And look, for me it's always just about those open conversations, and I've been really lucky. You know, Mike Rush is the CEO at the club here, and he definitely doesn't always tell me yes, he definitely doesn't always give me the answer that I want, but he has always given me the opportunity of hearing me out and having that open conversation. I think that's the most important thing when it comes to women's sports, when it comes to growing anything, is being open to those conversations so that you can look at, you know, where things are and how you get to where you want to be. I now work at the club full time, so I run the women and girls programme, so that in itself is a huge step. That, you know, it was seen that there needs to be someone employed at the club that just drives that side of the club now and how important it is. So it wasn't seamless by any stretch, but they've always found value in the women's side and understood that. And I think our chairman as well, Eamon McManus, he's fantastic, and he gets so excited every time we do something. You know, we win a trophy or we win a big game, or somebody does something that makes the club proud, I'll get a text off the chairman to pass on his congratulations. And I think just little things like that prove that they really value having a women's team here at the club.
Just 9 miles away, the Warrington Wolves face a very different season, winless and staring at relegation as the summer break nears. But the Wolves are no strangers to battling for their place, having climbed from the championship to the top flight of Women's Rugby League.
And I think off the top of my head, we had, 30, 40 girls come to trial for that first team. And they came because they saw an opportunity. It had never been there before in Warrington, in this era, that there was a team being supported by Warrington Wolves of women to get to the Super League. First 3 years was very much building on success. Started with nothing, got to the first level, built on that success. Then there's a bit of a step change, but it's a step change because it became harder. And obviously you can't just go from being very good here to very good here without some pain in the middle. And so we're not only now coming up against players who are better, but we're coming up against clubs who have got more resources. But the passion's still there, the badge is still there. That's what people come to play for.
What also separates St. Helens and Warrington is their team's foundation.
Currently, Warrington Wolves women's team are under the foundation. They're managed by the foundation. It's funded by the foundation. And that's a place where a lot of the women's teams started within their own environments. But you will see now that the top 4 teams, the likes of St. Helens, York, Wigan, Leeds, they're under the club, and funding is under the club, and they've got investors, which means that their product is better. their training facilities are better, and they're attracting the quality of player there. I think us at Warrington, we've been very much about passion for the club. You know, you come to Warrington to play for Warrington, but I think that we're getting to the point now that isn't necessarily competing with what's out there. Then we have coaching staff and volunteers like myself, we're all volunteers. And then our players come to play because they want to come to play. There's no expenses or anything like that. I have lots of ideas and things I would love to do, and I feel we should do as a team, and even as a club, we should do as a club, but the resources are not there. If I had more time, I could do more things that hopefully could influence us as a team, us as a club, and hopefully, you know, the results at the end of it. But still doesn't stop me coming always, you know, every week.
The Wolves and Saints were all set to clash at Victoria Park, but due to injuries and player availability issues, Warrington was unable to field a full team and forfeited the game, handing the Saints an automatic 48-0 win. For the Saints, the title chase rolls on. For the Wolves, a brutal season grew even harsher.
It's frustrating when you see the results sometimes. You know, I feel bad as bad as the girls feel when the results aren't to our positive. But at the same time, I probably can also see the work that's gone on behind the scenes, the little 1%ers that have, you know, that they've actually done that's outside of the scoreline. But it's still, you know, frustrating not to win, you know, like everything. Because it is a results sport, isn't it, when it comes down to it.
The disparity between teams and the struggles Warrington are facing come as little surprise to the league. Limited resources and a shortage of investors have long been constraining factors.
Unfortunately, we do have finite resources, so it's how do we make the biggest difference in the biggest areas while trying to make sure that we're delivering the best product for the people involved under limited resources. So we have to be smart, and we have to have long-term plans, and we have to do things that allow things to grow over time, because we can't accelerate it, which money would sometimes allow us to do. But that's always our biggest challenge. It's not the want or the need of the players or the effort, it's not the want or need of the clubs or from the centre, it's just how do we get access to that money to be able to make the biggest difference.
The challenge of finance has shaped where investment goes, with a good chunk being directed into youth development, a strategy aimed at safeguarding the league's future while steadily improving the on-field product.
There's now a performance group that train between, I think they're 15 and 16, and then from that group they have created the academy. And the academy, I think, is in its third year now, and we've got a couple of players like Liv Hill, number 26, she's come out of that pathway, so it's working, but she's one player that's come out of that pathway, and it is, over the next few years, it's definitely the pathway is the way to go. That's how all the Super League teams are going to get their next best players.
We've wanted to and always wanted to invest in the youth because it's really important to have proper pathways so that they have the ability to get better in the appropriate environment and have the right resources to do it. Sometimes that's just access to professionals and S&C, for example. But we know at the point that it's grown enough that we can do that without causing detrimental effect to the community game, which is obviously massive importance. So we are now seeing more girls who have had more access to better coaches, better environments for much longer. So we got this new wave of what we call the Women's Super League generation of players coming in that are going to make a difference because there's more of them. So where we are is that we have to find a way to make our product commercially viable in the next couple of years, and then that will settle us up for our new strategy that will start in 27.
The league may not have all the answers yet for commercialization, but the progress made has fueled broader discussions about the future, including dreams of the day when the sport is fully professional.
To be honest, the dream is always that you might get into a world that is fully professional. I think that's a long way off, and there's various different reasons for that. What I want to and hope that we have a structure in the future that anyone that comes into the system has no barriers to stop them being the best that they can be, even if that means that they're in a hybrid role where they can plan for the future, which is many things and is often different for females, but they can do so without barriers of being able to achieve them being the best athlete they can be, while also fitting into their lifestyle. We have to consider the players at the heart of what we do, rather than necessarily chasing a traditional structure that we think is the best, because I'm not sure it is. But we have to find ways and means that we are commercialise it to get the money to unlock those barriers, so we can create that world where people can have the opportunity to the best they can without as many barriers as there is at the moment.
While we may still be years away from a fully professional Women's Super League, the positive impact on the dreams of young girls has been felt since the very first year.
I was injured for the vast majority of the first year. I'd done my ACL, so I literally got a game and a half in, the very end 2 games of the season. And I went back to my old community club, Thatto Heath, and I was presenting the awards to, I think they're under 12s, around that age group. And a parent came up to me and shook my hand and just said, "Thank you, because you've made it so I don't have to lie to my little girl anymore." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he went, "Well, every week we sit in the crowd at St Helens and she tells me, 'Dad, I'm going to do that one day.'" And I'm just like, yeah, of course you will. And actually, I knew she never could. I knew that was never possible. Whereas now, he'd physically seen our girls out there on that pitch wearing the same kit, same badges as men. Now that was possible, and nothing's guaranteed, but the ability to dream and have that as an aspiration is huge for young people.
Even with the challenges that remain, moments like these show the progress the sport has made and why the investment, planning, and effort truly matter. They help ensure that every young girl in the crowd can believe, "I can do that one day."
Because it might be originally a men's game, but the girls can play it, and it needs to be influenced at all levels by, strong female women who play the game.
It's about having the opportunity to wear the badge and that being a possibility. What we did and what this Women's Super League generation has done has made that possible, so that young girls can dream and aspire to want to wear the badge of the team that they support.